inside his heart, an angel came with words from God. Things were still, saying read inside his heart, confused by what had occurred. There was only one who could comfort him, to help him see the light.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All praise belongs to Allah and to Allah alone. And may His peace and blessings be upon His Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I welcome you, dear guests of the Dubai International Peace Convention, back to this next session, where inshallah we will have our dear Sheikh Abdur Raheem Green from the UK addressing us. Nowadays, we spend so much time focusing on the world's religions that we overlook those who don't have any religion at all, atheists. Our speaker, inshallah, will shed light on the topic of the deceit of atheism. Sheikh Abdur Raheem Green is enormously popular for his lectures at the famous Speaker's Corner in London, in addition to his outstanding work with Peace TV and Islam Channel. Early on in his life, he became disillusioned by society's prioritization of material wealth above spiritual wealth. Today, his lectures and TV appearances have led many into the riches of true enlightenment in the Islamic faith. Now, many of us may have only had one religion for our entire lives, but having been given an early Christian background in Tanzania and the UK, Sheikh Abdur Raheem offers unique insights from both sides of the coin, the Muslim as well as the non-Muslim perspective. It is interesting to note that although atheists do not believe in God, money has almost become as a god to many people. To explore atheism in greater detail, it is my great honor to welcome our dear Sheikh Abdur Raheem Green from the UK, addressing us on the topic of the deceit of atheism.
Can we spare a little justice? Can we spare a little peace? For the children of war.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره، نعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له وما يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله وبعد. We begin by praising Allah. We praise Him, we seek His help, and we ask for His forgiveness. And we take refuge with Allah from the evil of ourselves and from the evil consequence of our evil actions. Whomsoever Allah guides, no one can misguide. But whomsoever Allah leaves to go astray, no one can guide. And I testify that Allah alone is worthy of worship, and that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is His servant and His messenger. Why would somebody be an atheist? Why would somebody choose a belief system that declares there is no creator of this universe? And this is the first point that I want to make to all of you, that atheism is a truth claim. Atheism is a truth claim. In other words, atheists are taking a position about something. An agnostic is someone who says, I don't know whether there's a God or not. An agnostic is someone who says, maybe there's a God, maybe there's not a God, I don't know. The evidence is not convincing to me either way. But an atheist is different. An atheist declares that God does not exist. The atheist declares that he or she knows. That's the implication. They know that God does not exist. And what I want to examine is, what is the basis of this knowledge? What is the basis of this claim? When an atheist is claiming that God does not exist, or they know that God exists, or they are convinced that God does not exist, what leads them? What makes them adopt this claim? What makes them take this position? Now, my good friend and colleague Hamza Sources, we call him the Muslim Aristotle. We call him that, mashallah, not just because he's Greek originally, he's Greek and he's a convert to Islam, but also he is very knowledgeable in the field of philosophy. And he has done many debates with atheists, leading atheists in the world, including, for example, Ed Buckner, who is the head of the Humanist and Atheist Society in the United States of America, Dan Barker, who is a former Christian evangelical, who's turned his evangelism now to atheism, and many others that Hamza has debated, both publicly, and you can see these debates if you want to go to our website, our iEra website. You can follow the links to those debates and watch them if this is a topic that interests you. What Hamza concluded, and it's similar to what I have concluded after many, many years of giving dawah, that most people who are atheists are not atheists because their belief is rational. No. And all you have to do, my dear brothers and sisters, is watch some of Hamza's debates with these leading atheists in the world. And believe me, you will be disappointed. You will be very disappointed. Not with Hamza, alhamdulillah, but you'll be disappointed because atheists have somehow managed to convince many people that atheism is a type of rational choice. It's the default position of the scientist and the academic and the intellectual. So a lot of people today imagine that most scientists are atheists. And this alone, just this, makes people sit up and take the claim of atheism seriously. Even myself, in my many years as a Muslim, my mashallah, probably now 25 years, alhamdulillah, as a Muslim. I've been a Muslim now longer than I was a non-Muslim. I have thought about this subject a lot. How can we prove the existence of Allah? Examining the arguments of the atheists. But as the title of today's talk suggests, I have concluded there is a type of deceit going on. That their claim to be rational and intellectual is by and large a false claim. I would conclude, and Hamza has concluded, that most atheists are atheists because of emotional reasons, not because of rational reasons. Their position is an emotional position, not a rational one. And I think that the two most obvious reasons for a person to be an atheist, and there are other reasons, but the two most apparent reasons for a person to be an atheist is, number one, the person feels that God has let them down. And this is what both me and my colleague Hamza, through experience, we have found, that a lot of people, and this is often people who are formerly religious, become atheists because they feel that God has let them down. I used to pray, they would say. I used to be religious. I used to believe in God. But then such and such thing happened to me in my life. Such and such difficulty came to me in my life. How could God do that to me?
In every job that you do, you want to be the best that you can be. To be the best that you can be, you have to follow the example of the best that ever were. When it comes to da'wah, there is no better example than the example of those men whom Allah chose to do the best of jobs. His noble prophets and messengers. Join me, Muhammad Tim Humble, as we study together the methodology of the Prophet in da'wah.
Rush to adopt the matchless qualities that make the procedure of dawah extremely effective in the methodology of the prophets in dawah, every Tuesday at 11 p.m. and repeat telecast at 12 p.m. India on Peace TV. Analyze your mistakes.
Have you ever tried to overcome your anger?
Realize your weakness.
Do you find it difficult to control your tongue?
Diagnose your moral sickness.
Have you ever felt that your intentions are corrupt?
Learn the steps essential to nourish our souls in purification of the soul. Every Thursday at 11:30 p.m. and repeat telecast at 12:30 p.m. India on Peace TV.
Most countries of the world ban bullying. They fight it in their schools and universities. A lot of us are being bullied differently every single day. Some come up to us and say, do this, while others say, don't you dare. Some say this is halal, while others say, nope, this is haram. Are you confused? Do you feel lost? Join me in Umdat al-Ahkam, where with the grace of Allah, we will learn the proper knowledge from the Quran and from the Sunnah, which would help stop this kind of bullying.
Join Asim Al-Hakim in Umdatul Ahkam, next on Peace TV.
I used to pray, they would say. I used to be religious. I used to believe in God. But then such and such thing happened to me in my life. Such and such difficulty came to me in my life. How could God do that to me? How could God sit there and let me face this difficulty. He should have rescued me. He should have saved me. He should have taken me away from this. In other words, they experience some difficulty in their life, and they feel that, perhaps they feel they are so special that God should have looked after them. And this itself, of course, comes from a wrong concept of God and a wrong concept of our relationship with God. As we Muslims know, life is a test. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا وَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْغَفُورُ. In the Quran, the Creator, Allah the Creator, is telling us that I have created life and I have created death. I have created death. الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ. I have not created death and life except to test, except to see which of you is best in conduct. And He is Aziz, He is the mighty, and He is Ghafoor, He is the forgiving. So life is a test. The nature of the test is that there will be hardship and there will be ease. There will be difficulties, there will be hardships, there will be illnesses, there will be sicknesses. Indeed, in the Quran, Allah is telling us, do you think that I would leave you saying you believe without testing you as we tested those who came before you? So we will be tested. And the fact that we claim to be believers in God does not mean we will stop being tested. No. In fact, we know from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that Allah tests the ones He loves, and the ones He loves the most, He tests them the most. Because it is through this process of being tested that we as human beings become refined. That is how we learn to improve. That is how we become better. That is how our character and our personality and our disposition, if we are patient, if we see the test through, then we become better human beings. It is like the process of purifying the ore of a metal. In order to get the pure metal, you have to purify the ore. You have to extract the pure metal from the dirt and from the ore that surrounds it. And through this process, the purification takes place. So a lot of atheists have this problem, that if there is a God, how come He let this happen to me? But this is not rational. It's not rational. This is emotional. It's emotional. If you think about it. And what I will do is go through the rational arguments of God's existence, and we will see that there are very, very strong rational arguments, very good reasons to believe that this universe has a creator. And then we will examine, insha'Allah, some of the arguments of the atheists, and we will also find out that their arguments are not strong arguments at all. But I gave one reason. So the first reason why, out of the two major reasons that a person becomes an atheist, and notice I say becomes an atheist, because the first topic I want to discuss, a very interesting topic, is that believing in God is actually natural and instinctive for human beings. So becoming an atheist is a decision that a person takes. Human beings are naturally born believing in the Creator. It's our environment and circumstances that take us away from that. Atheism is an acquired position. It's not a natural one. It's unnatural. The second reason why people become atheists is because they simply don't like the idea of having to live by rules, other than the rules they make for themselves. They don't like the idea that they are going to be held accountable. They don't like the idea that there are some things a human being should do and some things a human being should not do, and that the only being that has the right and the knowledge to tell human beings that is the Creator. In other words, what attracts the atheist is what they imagine to be freedom. I say they imagine it to be freedom. And with this, there are many other reasons as well. There are some historical reasons, especially for scientists. The conflict between the Roman Catholic Church and science has, for many scientists, marred the position of religion vis-a-vis science. And you particularly think of the way that Galileo was treated. And for many scientists, this has meant that the church, which for them, the Catholic Church, represents religion, is against science. And that the church has not given scientists the freedom to explore and to develop different theories. And I think, by the way, brothers and sisters, as Muslims, that should be, as a side point, a cautionary tale for us. Because, of course, in our civilization, we have not had that conflict between science and religion. In our civilization, in fact, we find that science was promoted. Science was encouraged. Indeed, according to some Western scholars and intellectuals, the scientific process itself, what we call the scientific methodology, was something the Muslims invented and the Muslims introduced. And people in the West learned that process from the Muslims. So I think it's important that we as Muslims are very cautious about creating or exaggerating a conflict between religion and science. But of course, if the scientific community is going to decide to take atheism as its position of choice, it's going to become very hard to avoid such a conflict. But I think the reality is that, first of all, the claim that most scientists are atheists is not true. It is simply not true. In fact, if you look at some of the greatest minds in science, like Albert Einstein, it is very clear from reading Albert Einstein that he believed in the existence of a creator. Newton, of course, who is famous, in many ways he's one of the giants of science, also believed in the existence of a creator. And interestingly enough, for many years of Darwin's life, he also believed that there was a God. It's only towards the end that it seemed that he expressed doubts about that. So this claim that the scientific community is an atheist community is not really a true claim at all. Now, my dear brothers and sisters, what I want to do is I want to go through some of the arguments that are put forward by people who believe that the Creator exists. And I want to introduce a set of arguments or a direction of discussion that is quite new. And the reason I want to introduce this is that there has been a very major piece of research done recently in Oxford by the Society for Mind and Anthropology, or Anthropology and Mind, who did a £1.9 million they spent on this research. As far as I remember, there were over 60 academics involved in this research from all over the world. So this was a major piece of scientific research in the realm of human psychology and anthropology. And after many years, they concluded that the belief in God, the religious belief, and the belief in afterlife is not something that is taught by our parents. It is something instinctive and natural in the human being. That in fact, the very human thought process itself is shaped by religious values. This is very significant. Because of course, this agrees with exactly what Islam has been saying, that every human being